Last week, I talked about we start with the Noble Eightfold Path. And then, in a way, I start off with the right view. And before that, I mentioned that this Noble Eightfold Path, they can be divided into two categories as mundane and also supramundane. Most of the time, when we look into Noble Eightfold Path, most of the time we look into the mundane part of it. The supramundane one, it's very much to do with the noting mind. Very much to do all the components, all the 8 components. It forms as a noting mind, the mind that notes an object. That one we later will talk about that. But it also is equally important that we understand, we developed our skills in the everyday life, how to develop this Noble Eightfold Path, these qualities of the Noble Eightfold Path. That one also, it will be very helpful in the sense of when we comes into the mental development part of it later on, then it makes your meditation much more smoother and stronger and less skeptical doubt and so on. Today, on Wednesday, I mentioned about the right view, and there are, in the mundane right view, it be also there are, the ownership of the karma, and the knowledge on the ownership of the karma. That means you understand the nature of the cause and effect, the cause, the nature of this karma and its resultant. And also, under the mundane, also these are the insight knowledges, and under the mundane there are also the jhana knowledge. But the insight and the jhana, we keep them aside for now, because the insight one we have talked about it. Later on in the next few talks also, we're going to talk about that on even a different aspect of it. But in the meantime, what I'm interested to talk about is this mundane part of it. Because the mundane part of it, as if number of you over here, which I could see, that you have been meditating a lot, which is wonderful. But there are also some of us here in the Zoom or in Facebook are very new to the Buddhism or understanding of Buddhism. So it also is relevant that you understand this mundane part of it, although I may not going to dwell into it too much. And I believe that there are many speakers sometimes in Zoom or in Facebook that you have heard, or in other times, or when you read, you can able to gather a lot of all these points and all these ideas, how to develop them. But in a way, my talk is more towards that when you develop the everyday type of these qualities, then I want to bring you to the mental cultivation part. Because if without doing the mental cultivation part, then the one that you develop in the everyday life, will not comes into its fruition. It will not comes into its the highest level that it can possibly develop. So that day we talk about the right karma. Now, another aspect of this mundane right view is also falls under understanding of the Four Noble Truths itself. So some people find that understanding of the Four Noble Truths from a mundane sense, that they develop a certain sense of clarity, a certain sense of mental development. Therefore, when it comes to right intention or right thought, then it connects to them. It connects to them because when it comes into the right thought, then your thought is guided by the right view. Say, for example, you reflect on dukkha and you think about dukkha in a mundane sense, then you find that aging, there is a birth, there is a sickness, there's death, there's separation from our loved ones, association with the unloved. Those type of reflection that you go through. Then when you go through those things, you find that not only I'm liable to sickness or aging, but so too other people are going through these things. So when you are able to reflect those things, then when your mind will direct it to when it comes to the right thought, then the mind will begin to not attach to life so much, perhaps, For example, that those beautiful things, actually we find it not really necessary. After all, life is going to, things are changing. Our life is changing, going through aging and so on. Then we're not going to attach to this life. Then the mind goes into right thought. Yeah? Or for example, when you think about aging and you think about sickness, and then you find that if I go through this sickness, I know that I'm suffering a lot. So too, when I have those ideas, I do not want to create dukkha to other people. You already have that thought. Your mind is directed that you do not want to harm others, or do not want to create suffering for others. So it's that way, by understanding it, you divert the mind into that volitional, into that right thought or right intention. But for other people, the understanding of the karma, that the different types of karma and its consequences and its resultant, there are, at least you understand the principle of the karma, that whenever you do an unwholesome action, unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome speech, there will be resultant. There will be terrible consequences. And if you uphold the wholesome thoughts and wholesome action and wholesome speech, there will be happy resultant. The understanding that, then the Buddha, of course, it mentioned into different ways that one have be careful when it comes to, like, for example, like parents. You have the father, mother. There are also, when you exercise, when you have this right view, then you will not act wrongly towards them, for example. Then also, in a sense that because of the understanding of karma, you will not have this wrong thought about harming them or being cruel to them. So your mind is guided by that karma, the understanding of that karma. So we look into the back in the share screen. All right. Can y'all see? Okay. Now the right intention here is the intention of renunciation, non-ill will, non-cruelty, or harmlessness. That one I've given, if you all read the Noble Eightfold Path, the standard sutta that I've given to you all last week, or those who just joined us for today, last week on Wednesday. So you have to go to the Facebook on last week's talk under the comments, you can download the sutta. So when you are guided by the thoughts of dukkha or the four noble truths, or your thoughts are guided by karma, understanding of karma, then your mind will be directed to non-ill will, to non-cruelty, to renunciation. So that is where the mundane part of it, that you begin to avoid the unwholesomeness. You begin to not to attach so much or obsessive in our things, in those the people and so on. We can mentally you can slowly able to not to be too attached to them or to the things. That is where the right intention comes in. So when the right view arises, when you have that mundane understanding of the Four Noble Truths or the understanding of the karma, then it will lead you naturally to the right intentions, to the non-ill will, to the non-cruelty. Because if we could see that in our lives, or sometimes in friends, or in our even family members also, sometimes when people do not have any understanding of compassion or metta, or even understanding of karma, or dukkha in that sense, then they don't care about their own siblings. They create a lot of suffering for them, a lot of problems. Then here, when we have to deal with this one, then also the whole family or the people in the office or so on, and sometimes can be very difficult, because in the beginning, there's no right view about karma and no right view about dukkha or the Four Noble Truths on the mundane level. So that's why when you again and again in your lives, you reflect about karma, you reflect about consequences, you reflect about the happy resultant, then your mind is always being directed to this non-attachment to these things, non-ill will, non-cruelty, and you keep on directing to it. Sometimes this right intention in another way, they put it as a vitakka. Vitakka. Vitakka is like initial application of the mind, a right thought, in that sense. In this right intention, also I also wish that some of us or all of us can able to exercise it, purposefully. We got to exercise it purposefully in order that to be able to understand our thoughts and our intentions better. On the mundane level, we are not talking about when you're talking about meditation and so on. We can actually able to do it like in our everyday life. We're not asking you to do it all the time, but we can begin by some of the simple exercise that you can able to see it for yourself. Now, what can we do in our everyday life? When for example, you exercise. Nowadays, that a lot of people, because of staying at home, they are not moving so much. So they take up a lot of exercise, which is wonderful. You go through your exercise routine, whether you are doing your tai chi, whether you're doing your qigong, whether you're doing your walks, or whether you're doing your jogging, cycling, and so on. which is wonderful. You can able you do that. Yeah, you do that for the sake of the body. Yeah, but look into your mind or look into your life. Or why is it really necessary for you to do these activities? Yeah? Look into it a little bit more. Now, most of us may have answer for it. If I were to exercise, then I'll feel happier. Then I do not have all these diseases and so on. And some people may have that. When I have this better health, then in the future, when the lockdown is over, then I could able to travel here and there. I already miss my my food on my char kway teow or my whatever food that I'm missing right now because I cannot able to cross the state. I cannot able to cross district. So I kind of like miss that one. So when I have that better body, then I could able to enjoy all these things. That is where when we don't have a lot of all this right view and much of right view and right karma and so on. Yeah. Because the thought that particular activity, that intention of that particularity is directed to sensual desire. Yeah? Is directed to sensual desire, to able to eat, so that you can able to travel. Travel, why? You want to see this, you want to see that. To able to do this and do that. Again, is all worldly nature. So now if you were to understand that the Four Noble Truths or the karma, then perhaps that you may think that now if I have a better health, with this exercise and so on, when I have better health, then I can able to perform more merits. Better merits in the sense that whenever I want to go for dana, I can able to do that. Whenever I want to offer a service, I could able to do that. Whenever I want to go for a meditation retreat, I could able to do that. Then it becomes your intention, that thought, the exercise, the idea, it becomes a little bit better, more noble than just worldliness, and it becomes attachment. And then here, your thoughts, your thinking, is being directed to what we call renunciation. That means you're already giving up on the sensual, not to say you're giving up everything, but you begin to reduce your sensual desire. You're not using this health only for to eat more food or to have more enjoyment in the eyes or senses, but it's for better wholesome merits, because you understand of karma. So when you have that, you exercise, then you have able to perform more merits and so on, which is wonderful. Great, because of understanding of that karma. Then for example, that there are those people who meditate more and they have perhaps some people also have a deeper understanding. Then even that single exercise, those exercises that they do, they have the thought, they have the intention that this intention, this thought is for me, so that in times when the lockdown is over, I could able to meditate further. I could able to keep to my goals better. Because I know that at home I cannot able to meditate. There are people around me. There are so many things I got to work and so on. I'm not able to do those mental development as much as I want. But if the lockdown later is over, then I could able to attend more retreats. Perhaps I could able to attend retreats. I could able to meditate further, and because I have a good health, then I could able to do these things. If I do not have good health, that is impossible for me to meditate and strive and to attain my goal. So here, your right intention is already begin by understanding from day to day. So to you, not only in these things, but you can exercise also these thoughts in other things. In other things, for example, sometimes when I walk, I go for walks and so on. Then while in the middle of walking, sometimes there are thoughts, Dhamma thoughts, arises in me. And then when it comes up, but then I really figure out that this type of thoughts, that I'm going to give the talk. I'm going to give the talk maybe a week's time. Not like tomorrow, but in already a week's time. Sometimes it's how I'm going to say it, how I'm going to sequence the talk in that sense, but already in the thought. And the first thought, that type of first thought already arises already. So I catch that thought. I catch that thought that is going to happen a week later or even 2 weeks later. But I know that how the thing is going to go through. That I already catch that so-called the thought. Here the thought is not connected to sensual desire. The thought is not connected to ill will, not connected to harmfulness, so non-cruelty in that sense. Then it falls under the right thought also. So sometimes this type of thoughts that arises in you, you take notice of it. Now, once in a while, for example, even sometimes the most mundane things that you want to do, don't worry about. Sometimes you don't have to worry about whether it's a right thought and so on. Say, for example, it's just right to the mundane part of it. Now you want to go to take a shower. You take a shower. Then sometimes that thought to take a shower, it may be 1 hour earlier before you want to go into the bathroom or the toilet. So it's already 1 hour earlier. So if you're able to catch that thought of you want to go to a shower, that thought already arises, and then you take note of it. You don't have to act upon it, you don't have to act upon it. All you need to do is to take note of that thought. That's it. Yeah. And you exercise this type of noticing these type of thoughts throughout in the every day of your life. And we are not asking you to do all kinds of things, but those simple mundane things that you take note of it. Later on, when you able to establish in these things, then your mind is quite sharp. In the sense that when you want to exercise whether something unwholesome or wholesome, your mind already able to catch that thought because of the mind that able to exercise through. There's become less and less a gray area to you. Sometimes our thoughts when we do not exercise these things, the gray area when the wholesome and unwholesome is all mixed together, we cannot able to cut where is vision is white one, which is the black one, which is the wholesome one, which is the unwholesome one, because the mind is always muddled inside there. Why muddled? Because there's lacking of training, lacking of exercising the mind to able to see the nature of the thoughts. So here, in a simple way, it would be good that you exercise these type of thoughts every now and then. If so happen that you are in the office, then for example, you're going to have a meeting, maybe at 10 o'clock morning, then you already acknowledge the whole mind that is going to have a meeting at 10 o'clock. You kind of like purposefully take note of it, not just let the mind skim through, kind of like purposely take note of it. Then it helps you to remember one thing. Yeah? But the most important thing, it helps you to take note of the mind. In this way, when you do a certain action in your life, and for example, sometimes we want to, sometimes in our sometimes you are as a children, and you still have parents, and your children, you may be like 40, 50 years old, or 60, and then you still have parents, or maybe in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, and sometimes our actions, for example, we want to give them some, monthly allowances. Give them some monthly allowances for them to, to do whatever they want. But a lot of times, I notice there are children are putting conditions into their giving. I give you this money. Make sure you don't go and play all the lottery until you finish. Yeah, this money is for you to this one. Lottery is not for you to go in this one, or you cannot do this, or you cannot do that. Yeah. A lot of times we put a lot of conditions in them. Yeah? Yeah. We are not really fully giving. We only give partially only. I mean, not to say partially, we give fully. I mean, we give, but on the mental part, we are not letting it go fully. We are letting go partially and with condition partially. So a lot of times when we do these things, there's a lot of gray area with it. We cannot able to differentiate them. We know that giving is good. We know that giving is good. Giving to the parents or giving to people is good, but we always put a condition there. Actually, when you want to fully do these things, when you want to give, you must able to give it fully. If you don't want to give, then fine. You can give in other ways. You can offer other things in another way. May not be money. But if you want to give, you must be able to give it fully. In order for us to make sure that our mind is clear. If not, sometimes when we do these things every day in our lives, we muddle our mind again and again. That's why we cannot able to discern the mind, which one is wholesome and which one is unwholesome. Even though they do something a bit unwholesome, but it's your mind, that your attitude of your mind that is connected to it, it's unwholesome right now. So you got to be careful. A lot of times when we do these things, our mind is not fully perfect. So therefore, it is good for us to train our mind, looking into our volition, looking into our thoughts. Then you'll be good that we can able to see them more clearly. So you try those exercises. You try those exercises again and again in your lives, in everyday life. Then you'll find that it's much more better. It's so much more better. It'll be very helpful. Then you'll see that next time in your lives, a lot of things that you're going to do is for the sake of something wholesome, something better to yourself and also to others, something more noble than what you used to be. Even sometimes you gain your wealth, you gain your health, you gain your friends and so on. Those things, if you look into it and you know how to make it more noble, more wholesome, then you direct the mind towards it. Then it will give you a lot of happiness for a long period of time, even in the mundane sense. Not only in this life, but also in lives to come in the future. So we're going to come back to this right thought or right intention when we go into much on the meditative level, meditative part of it. because that time we are actually exercising it in much more minuscule level, much more smaller, much more immediate level. So right now, in the everyday life is more of a broad level. We are looking at the thoughts arises or the thinking arises, and then it may happen immediately, or it may happen 10 days later, or a week later, or a year later. But your mind is aware of it. So that one will come back again on this right thought again. We're going to go into to the morality side. We're going to go into the morality side. So the first two, the right view and the right thought or right intention, that one belongs to wisdom, worldly wisdom. These two, we're going to convert them later on into, we're going to exercise them precisely that the mind can able to develop and can able to gain deeper insight or jhanas and so on. That one we come into the other talks. So now is that this morality part. This morality part again, when you have a standard noble eightfold path morality, then it will be something like this. It will be something like this. Morality here, again, it falls under right speech, right action, right livelihood. Abstinent from foul speech, abstinent from divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter. Then right action is abstinent from destruction of life, abstinent from taking what is not given, abstinent from sexual misconduct. Now the right livelihood that you have given in the sutta, is the number one. A noble disciple, having abandoned wrong mode of livelihood, earns his living by right livelihood. What do you mean by wrong mode of livelihood? Then here in Dikha Nikaya, Sutta number 1 in Brahma, which is also Brahmajala Sutta, which is also a later part of the Sutta, it talks about the 62 kinds of wrong view. But in the earlier part, before the 62 parts, the Buddha talked about all kinds of wrong view, all kinds of morality action that ascetic or monastic shouldn't be doing. For example, that the Buddha talked about it is like what? If you should not like in those days, these cows or sheep or goats, those farm animals, they are actually a sign of wealth. It's a sign of wealth. The more the cows that you have, that means that you are a very wealthy person. So too, the monastic or ascetic or a noble disciple, they don't receive these farm animals from people, even the farm animal, even the devotees or the people offer it to them. Because once you offer it to them, and then it becomes like your livelihood. In other words, you have to spend a lot of your time to take care of those things, to all those animals. Then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to cultivate the mind to get out of samsara, but in the sense that you begin to fall into that type of livelihood, and it takes so much of your time, and then you thought that you are doing a wholesome deeds for them, but that is not. That is what we call the wrong mode of livelihood. For example, nowadays people are very crazy over dogs and cats. Crazy over dogs and cats. I'm sure some of you have all these things. Now, before I was a monk, before I meet with so many people, as a monk, I met with a number of people. So before I was a monk, when I was young and so on, I do not have pets. I'm not crazy about pets or dogs or cats. But of course, when the dogs come and all that, I pet them. Or the cats come, I give them a bit of cuddle and all that. And that's about it. That's about it. So I don't Not to say I like to own them in that sense. So when I was become a monk, and now first year, second year, one of second funeral chanting that I have to go, and then this person, their parents, one of their mother, I think, died. So they were crying and crying and crying, So I tried to console them. After all, death is inevitable. He's already like 80 over years old. We don't have to cry so much, After all, if you reflect, then your mind will be more peaceful. Oh, Reverend, how can we not cry, Reverend? Even that time, our dog died also. We also cried for 1 week. How can we? Our parents died. We don't cry. Our dog died also. We already cried already. Then that time, I have no inclination about pets and attachment to all the pets. I can't figure out how could a dog died. You also cry until 1 week. I have no idea at all about people's attachment to the pets and so on. Anyway, we get back to this one. So here, what I'm trying to say is that among and all the ascetics, and you want to cultivate, you should not have all these things troubling you. Now, sometimes people think that there are places like in Thailand. There are tigers and so on in the monastery. And people thought that, wow, these monks are taking care of the tigers and it's a wholesome deed. Yes, it's a wholesome deed. It's not an unwholesome deed. But is it necessary? Is it necessary for monks to go and do all those things? Then this is not necessary, because it becomes a livelihood. It becomes a wrong livelihood for a monk, although it can be wholesome. It's a wrong livelihood. So sometimes there are monks also. They are specialized in chanting. Specialized in, not to say chanting is bad. Chanting is a wholesome thing. You're able to chant in the right time. It's a wholesome thing. But they take it up into a different level, in a sense that become the professional chanters. Every time they have death, then this type of monks, they or nuns, they go for that particular chanting. When I say monastics here, it means we cover all kinds of people who give up worldly life. Not only Theravada monks or nuns, but we cover whether Hinduism or whether under Buddhism or any other religion. Anyway, when you give up life, So when it's wrong mode, sometimes they use this chanting, and y'all will see sometimes like earning becomes like a earning for them. Especially the funeral chanting. Okay, so somebody died, right? All right, good. No, that's a good. I mean, somebody died. All right, you want a monk or a nun to come and chant for you? Well, good. So if you want to have one monk, that the cost will be this. If you want to have 3 monks, then the cost will be also this. You want to have half an hour chanting, then the cost will be also this. You want to have a 1 hour chanting, and then the cost will be this. If you want to have a guarantee heaven one, then the cost also will be this. Then they become professional chanter. Then every time the monks or some people died, and then they have these places they go for this chanting. So their livelihood becomes like that, chanting. So that one you have seen. That one you have seen. More or less, I've seen this way of doing things, this is not livelihood. This is not a livelihood for a monk and nun. And then sometimes when I've go to places, again, sometimes the monks and nuns also, they are doing all kinds of things. Like for example, kind of like becomes a shop. They becomes like a professional tour guide to guide you around in the monastery, to tell you what is this, what is that, or what is this place and what is that place. And then they take up so much of their own time, and they do it every day, every day. That also is, although it's wholesome, but it's not really a monk's job or a nun's job. So more like looking at the palmistry, looking at your future lives, trying to catch spirits and so on. That one is not really a monk's livelihood or a nun's livelihood. So these are falls under wrong livelihood. And this one in Dikha Nikaya, there are even more things than what I've said. There are certain games that during the Buddha's time that they are popular. Perhaps right now they are already normal in our current time. But during that time, they say that a monk is going involved in this type of games and this type of things. Then because it takes up so much of a time. So too, like right now, so the monks don't have to fall and do all kinds of like training in the sense of you want to go into competition, and then when you want to go into competition, you have to train a lot. Then this is not for the monks to do. You can go for exercise, yes, for the sake of good health, but not in the sake of training yourself until you become like a professional athlete like that. So this is not fall under this one. So too, in a way, also monks you don't have to get involved into too much of a politics and so on. This is again, we can the Buddha also discouraged monks to go and talk about all these politics and what's happening in the world, because this is again fall under right speech. Number 4, abstinence from idle chatter. Idle chatter for us is that talk about kings and talk about politics and talk about this one and that one. We don't have to do that. We know a little bit, fine, but you don't go and fall into it too much. So, right livelihood in that sense. So many things that we can talk about the right livelihood. Yeah. Interesting, actually. It's interesting. But actually, all these things, the whole principle is that the Buddha don't want you to spend your time into do all kinds of unnecessary things. It may be wholesome, but are not. Being a monk or being a nun, the whole purpose of being a nun is because the Buddha organized it in such a way that you are given a lot of time. So much time is in your hand that you don't have to worry about earning a living. You don't have to worry about a shelter. You don't have to worry about your robes. You don't have to worry about medicine, about hospitalization or care. You don't have to worry about all this type of things. This one is being provided by the devotees for you. So you have the time. So it is good that you use this time to put it into cultivation of the mind. So some people, if you don't have the right view, don't have the right thought, and don't have the right direction, then they'll do all kinds of things rather than they put their time into do kinds of unnecessary things. So it is important that we have our goal is clear to us, right? Now for the number 2 in the right livelihood, for a lay disciple, this is not trading in animals or slaughter. Trading in this is not trading. This is not trading. Trading cannot. Not trading in animals for slaughter, not dealing in weapons and dealing in slave and dealing poison and dealing in intoxicants. So here, animal for slaughter, that means you actually do all kinds of animal and then farming and so on. You have to slaughter them and so on. Dealing with weapons that you can able to harm and kill others. Dealing in slaves, that means sometimes like human trafficking, nowadays. Also a slave in the sense of you don't pay them, you torture them, and so on. Dealing in poison, that means this poison doesn't mean that you cannot do chemistry and so on, you can still sell a lot of, nowadays they have bottles that label poison and so on. You can still deal with them because they are there for other purpose. Here, dealing in poison, that means that particular thing is purposely to harm others or to kill animals or to do all these type of things. So these are what we call poison. Sometimes, like for example, insecticide, things like this. These are poison. Dealing in intoxicants, that means these are all spirits that you, wine, beer, alcoholic stuff, and then you create the mind becomes very blur and muddled. So this is falls under rightly food for the lay disciples. You don't fall under that. But nowadays, this livelihood also, you got to be, although we don't fall into these things, but you also have to be careful that you don't get too obsessive with money and or the graph or the chart, because nowadays your money and your finance is all depending on how the chart goes up and down. Like in the share market now, how the chart go up and go down is where how you get happy, how you are happy, and so on. So don't get too obsessive with that. You're too obsessive with that. You put your time and into it. You can never be really happy. You cannot be really contented in that sense. Your mind is called a lot of this clinging and attachment to all these type of things. So you all got to be careful. Doesn't mean that not fall under these 5 things for ladies, people or lay devotees. Then other thing you can just do. You have to be careful of your senses and so on. Now here also again, when we talk about those things, these are all falls under mundane. When it comes into supramundane, it comes as a consciousness or a mental factor. But in the coming talks, I'm going to look into virtue a bit more different way. This is how I'm going to look at it. So, then you'll cover everything also on the top. Now here there are 4 types of morality. First class of morality is morality as intention. Then morality as a mental factor. Number 3, morality as a restraint, and morality as non-transgression. A lot of times we hear morality as chitana. Sometimes we do not connect how the morality as a mental factor. Restraint we hear a lot. Non-transgression also you hear a lot, but you may not able to know how to connect with it. So tonight we'll talk about a little bit on the morality first. On this morality as an intention. You see, these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, I get it from the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification. Because here, it is good that when we look at it from another angle, then we see how our mind working in order and how it connects with the body and speech and another thought. How we want to see that, because that also it helps us to purify our sila. That day we may talk about the 7 purification. Everything begins with the purification of sila. Purification of sila, then you purification of the mind, and after that you have purification of view, and so on and so forth. So now we are going to look into this purification of sila in 1 or 2 talks. And we're going to look into this one a little bit more. So the first one is intention. It is volition bhikkhus that I call karma. For having willed, one acts by body, speech, or mind. This is Anguttara Nikaya. Hey, sorry, not 63. This is book number 6.63.9. Book of the Six. Book of the Six, 63. This one is quite famous. This sutta, this passage is quite famous because a lot of times we see a lot of people quoting when they talk about intention, which is important. So here the important is that we look at karma as the intention. We are not talking about the action or the speech. It's how the intention is being formed. Then the action is happening. When it comes into karma, when we look into what can be done or what cannot be done, and for example, like when we look into killing, a lot of times we debate that, okay, this is intention and intention. This is just wonderful, because a lot of times, if your mind is clear, then you know that whether you have performed that karma or not. But if your mind is not clear, that means you can't even know your intention. Then it wouldn't be very. It's not so. It's going to be difficult. It's going to have a lot of gray area. Now, usually for a lot of us, when we begin our understanding of karma and also our precepts and so on, then it is when it comes to this intention that, take for example, when we want to do killing, when we want to do that action of killing, then if we do not have the idea of wholesome or unwholesome, we do not have the view of karma, we just kill a being, or we kill a man, or we kill a woman, or we kill a cockroach or anything. The action will immediately performed, because we don't care about all these consequences and so on. Some people don't even believe in this karma also, so they just kill and so on. Now, when you have these thoughts of karma, then when you want to perform it, then you notice that this is something unwholesome. You know that this is unwholesome. Then you make an action. You make a thought. You make an intention that to pull away from committing that crime, of committing that action. The mind pulls out from it. So that intention, it becomes morality. That intention becomes morality. Because of that intention, due to your right view, you stop yourself from doing the killing. Because sometimes for some people, they want to do all this type of torturing animals and killing and so on. But when we begin to learn about Buddhism and so on, then because of their habit of the past, it's not easy for us just to cut off so fast. But because of the right view that's coming in, a right understanding that is coming in about karma, for example, then here you put an effort into it that, stop, don't do it. That is where your intention, you make a strong intention not to perform that thing. But in the later on, as you become more Buddhist, as you become more involved into understanding of Buddhism, and you begin to do these things, that thought of killing of an animal does not arise. You see an animal that thought of that intention disappear at all. It doesn't have. You know, it really gone. Somehow or another, the habit, you broke that habit. You broke that habit, and then there's no intention for you to do any form of killing. You know, you see a cockroach, you don't feel like you don't have the intention of killing, but you still want to take it out from your house, which is perfectly all right. You know, you don't want to harm it, but you want to take it out from your house if you can catch it. But if but you don't have the thought to want to kill them and so on. Then compared to your previous times in your past, then your thought of killing them is very strong. The intention to kill them is very strong. Now, the intention has disappeared. So that is good because of the understanding that developed over time, the strong understanding developed over time until that wrong intention also that does not arise. So here sometimes for there are people, when they beginning about Buddhism, then they're halfway want to understand, then this gray area especially, you suddenly accidentally smack onto a mosquito or cockroach or something, then it died, then you may say that, oh see lah, I kill it, how got karma or not, Bhante. I cannot see your karma. But then sometimes we console them, You sometimes your friends will console, hey, you do it accidentally, accidentally you don't have that karma because you don't really have the intention to kill the being. Then when you look into that, that morality, all this type of morality falls under morality as intention, morality as chitana. Morality as chitana. And it's good for us to understand its intention clearer. Sometimes, for example, like not only in our action, but also in our speech also, that when we want to get something, we want to obtain something, that what our heart desire, sometimes we use a certain words, a certain speech in a certain way to manipulate the way in order to finally to get that one. So if you have a more clearer mind, then if you have more clearer mind, then you will not go through those ways of doing it because your mind knows that you try to scheme your way through, you kind of manipulate your way through in order to get something. Then you watch that thought of yours, you watch that intention of yours that you want to speak in a certain way to obtain that something that you desire. So if you take note of that thought, you take note of that intention, then you prevent yourself from committing the unwholesome speech in that sense. So it will be good that you take note of those thoughts, especially sometimes when you are in the business world. You want certain business from the other party, so you do in such a way that you want to scheme in a way, you want to manipulate in the way in order to get that person. Or sometimes people like in the insurance also the same thing. I mean, there are some people here also are doing insurance, but this is your livelihood. But also that you also have to exercise right speech also, and hopefully, when you want to sell our product, we want to sell this one, we have to be clear and we have to speak in a sense of a bit more honest. Then when people see your honesty, perhaps they can able to buy from you. Well, these things I already give up for so long already. Talking about this, I feel no effect on me. It's all for y'all to do these things. But what is important? I mean, to a lot of you, you don't find it that I want to get some business and I want to manipulate a bit through here and there. So what's wrong with it? Sometimes you do, it's one case, it's not wrong of it, but when you do it over the years, over time, that is where it becomes your habit and it becomes your character. And not only it manipulate in this time, but in other things in life also, you also become manipulative. If so happen also, next time you become a monk or become a nun also, your character just follow into that way. And then you become manipulative and in this way. And sometimes we see these people in the monkhood also. Of course, they are in the beginning for first year, second year, third year, and they bring all these type of thoughts into the monk's life. They want to get something. They skim through the devotees, just like they skim through how they're going to sell the insurance. But now they skim through the certain devotees in order to get the devotees to buy something or get them something, not in a very not in a very straightforward manner, but in a way kind of like skimming through here and there. So that is also become very, very not healthy, mentally in long run. Because we see that sometimes there are monks or nuns, they are very attached to certain families and so on. And then when they attach to them, or they praise their family, and they sort of in order for that family to support them, to give them, to whatever, kind of like in that way. Although when you see it in the sense of it can be still wholesome in a certain way, but they are tainted with unwholesome thoughts and unwholesome intention and unwholesome way of doing things. So that's what the Buddha discouraged. Not fall into this type of scheming and manipulation and so on. You got to be straight, uju and suhuju, straight. You got to straight. The mind has to be straight in that sense. So that's why the intention, take note of that intention. It is very important. Like just now earlier on, we said that you take note of those intention. Next time when we exercise on the morality part, your mind is much more clearer. Oh, this one is somewhat not so wholesome. I should prevent that. And then there are things when it comes into your precepts on your morality, then you know that this should be done, that should not be done, because your mind is clear, your intention is clear. All right? Okay. So we'll stop here for now, for tonight. We're going to continue on this morality part, when it comes to the on Wednesday. We're going to talk more on the different areas of morality, because developing those things, understanding those things, it'd be very helpful for the development of the mind later on. Okay? So we'll stop here for tonight.